first off, the first question you had was, why is your thickness all out of whack? And that is because of your scale ratios here. So you probably scaled it up in object mode. So to reset that, let me turn on my shortcuts here. To reset that, you're just going to do Control A and reset the scale. Notice it will go back to 1 right here. And you always want to keep these at 1. That's just going to make sure any thickness or any numbers you type in over here are actually true measurements. So right now, Blender is kind of multiplying, that 1,000 by the 0.001. So now we're getting somewhere a little bit more true. I'm going to just turn off these booleans real fast. Just kind of reset everything because we got a lot going on here. And so first thing I've noticed is this looks like a photogrammetry scan or something. There's a lot of triangles. If you go into edit mode, I can see there's a lot of triangles, and your little guy here is all quads. So I'm going to just remesh this just to kind of just to make it all quads. See how the little blocks here. So let's remesh. And when you get a remesh like that, that tells me right away that it is a non-manifold. Like you've got a bunch of holes in this mesh that need to be fixed. So let's just undo that. Go into our 3D print toolbox. Go into edit mode. And let's just, first off, let's see what your scale is like on this guy. So it looks like your scale's out of whack on that too. You probably just scaled it in object mode. That's okay. We can just reset it. Control A, just like we did before. Reset the scale. Now everything's at 1. Let's go into our 3D print toolbox, tab over into edit mode, and let's just see if we have, check and make sure it's solid. So it looks like we've got 27 non-manifold edges. And I'm just going to do Shift H to hide. So let's see these tiny little dots here. We've got these tiny little dots floating around. I'm just going to delete those. Maybe go into point mode. Just hit X and delete those vertices. And we'll bring everything back with Alt H. Now let's recheck if those fixed it. Okay, so we still have some non-manifolds here. I can see something right there is floating around here. So I'm just going to go into see-through mode with Alt Z and just select those, delete those, and let's check for solid again. We're probably still going to have those 5. Yeah, so it looks like it's just a few. So what we can do, I'm just going to turn X-ray off, go into cleanup, and just say make manifold. And that should close all of our little any holes that we might have deleted. So there we go. Let's go ahead and save, and let's check if it's solid and see if we can get that to 0 out. There we go. So now we have a manifold mesh. Let's look at how high this poly count is. It looks like you've got almost a million, almost a million faces. So I'm just going to remesh that and just kind of tone this down, because otherwise we'll be here all day trying to get some booleans to work. So it's a pretty high mesh count, but I mean, you can do it if you have like a really powerful computer, but I'm just on my laptop here. So let's remesh, and you can see, well, what the remesh does is just turns it all into quads. And so I may even drop this just for examples, maybe like 0.75. And it's going to drop the quality a little bit, but it's just going to reduce some of our count here, just so it's not, maybe even just 1. And you can leave it, pretty high, if, like 0.1 if you want, but just for example, I'm going to drop the poly count so it's not like a million faces there. And just apply that. Once you get the look that you like. And so now we have a real, like a manifold mesh, and that should help a lot with booleans. But Blender does not like to boolean anything if it's not manifold. It kind of gets confused. Another thing with your plane here, let's go into edit mode. For the plane, the simplify or the solidify is going to like this little hexagon shape and these little wings that you got here. This guy that's kind of coming out from the middle, but I'm just going to pop that off real quick. So I'm just going to select this, select that, these little corners here, make sure we get the whole plane there, and I'm just going to hit P to pop that off. And so now it's a separate part. and just call this like back plane, just so it's easier to understand what's going on here. And let's turn off your what you got here, proportional editing. So now we should be able to move that, if we want to. Okay, so now we've got something here. Let's go check out your scale on this. Those look good. So you got scale to 1, that's great. And now if we go into edit mode, just looking at this, we'll select all. We've got just some floating points right here and right here. So I'm just going to delete those. Just delete the vertices. There, looks like there's just a bunch going on. And so just delete those. And same thing goes for here. You got a bunch going on. It looks like you may have just got a little excited when you made this this little cutout guy and duplicated a bunch of faces. I'm going to go ahead and do mesh, cleanup, merge by distance, and it looks like there was 14. So it looks like all these points had a bunch of dots on top of itself, and that's going to also confuse Blender when it's trying to do the boolean. So we just want clean, simple meshes. Now let's go back into object mode. I'm just going to save, and now let's try and subtract, slicing this right here. So I'm going to click on the first part, the plane, shift click on the head, and then do control backslash. And there we've got something here. So let's go onto here. And that's my bad because I didn't put any solidify on this. So let's just undo actually, just to kind of keep it simple here. So we're back to where we were. Let's add some solidify to this. Solidify. And our scale ratio is correct. So now we can do 0.5 for the thickness. You had it at 0, I believe. And now let's try and do the slice. So we're going to just make sure you have the plane, shift click on the head, control backslash to slice it. There we go. So now we've got a little slice right here. You can see it kind of popping up right there. And then I'll just try to click in there. And that's what you were talking about in the email. Now you should be able to delete that slice. So we'll just hit X to delete it. And there you go. So now we've got a little slice. And you can, grab that G, Y, and move it around if you need to, depending on what you're trying to do. I'm just going to leave it where you had it. And so you can do the same thing for this guy. So let's just add some thickness or solidify. Let's do 0.5, thickness 0, and let's try and slice this guy. So just make sure you have the back plane, shift click on the head, control backslash. Let's see what we get. All right, so now we can just click on this little guy here, hit X, delete it, and there you go. So hopefully that helps. Now you've got all your pieces there, and that's, I believe, what you were trying to go for there. And you can move those around. You can definitely keep this mesh high poly count if you want, but it's just going to take a lot longer for you to boolean those. But that's how I would do it. You've got all your parts, and then just export that out with your 3D print toolbox. Bring it into your slicer, pop out the parts, and you should be able to start printing. So hopefully that helps. I know it went a little fast. This was a very complex slicing, but I'm glad that you were trying to do it. But yeah, just keep it, keep it 2 separate parts here, and that'll keep your edges clean. And yeah, let me know if you have any other questions.